Greetings, this is Jim Lindsay. This is a CIS 320 video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Visio to create online calendars. We've looked at ways to create online HTML files from a Visio drawing. This time we're going to concentrate specifically on calendars. And so in order to get there, we first have to make a Visio calendar. So let's get into it. I'm going to start Visio. And once Visio has started, I'm going to go to File and New. This type of drawing, a calendar, falls under the category of schedule. So if you come down here to the schedule drawings, we've worked in here before with timelines, but one of your choices is a calendar. If you take other business informatics classes or other CIS classes or some of the SM classes, you may get into PERT charts and Gantt charts as well. But we're going to work with calendars at this moment. So we're going to start this up. I'm going to go with US units. And what I'm going to make a 2-month calendar. This is really easy. It's one of the reasons I wanted to use this as the type of drawing we use to create our online document with. So we can just get right into it. And so we're going to have 2 months in our calendar, which means it's going to be 2 pages. Right now our drawing is simply 1 page, so we need another page. And then we'll go back to page 1. The shape that we're going to use to get our month is obviously the month shape. And you can see there are shapes for a week, for a year, for individual day. You could choose whichever of those is appropriate for whatever you're trying to make a calendar for. But what I want to do is just work with this month shape. So I'm going to drag and drop it on my page, and there it is. And then it asks me to configure this. It's going to say, hey, what months, what year is this calendar for? On top of that, what day of the week does this calendar begin on? Most of the time, when you first install Visio, it says Monday, which is to me is kind of weird. When you look at a calendar, or when I've looked at a calendar most of my life, the calendar almost always begins on Sunday. But because this is a business program, they tend to start their calendars on Monday and then have Saturday and Sunday as the at the end of the drawing. So use this drop-down box to basically find the day of the week that you want to be your beginning day. I would recommend that be Sunday so people don't misinterpret it. You can choose to shade the weekends or not. I generally go with that. And if you show the title where it says June 16 right now, if you uncheck that, that will go away. I usually leave that there because that will identify for the viewer what month, what year we're talking about. And then above that, I will typically put a title specific to whatever I'm making the calendar for. So once this is done, once it's configured, I want October, by the way. You'll note it starts at January and goes through December, just like you would expect. I want this to be for October and November of 2016. So I'm going to hit OK, and it makes my calendar for me. You'll see that the weekends are shaded like it said it would make them, and it's just a calendar shape. And then it's just essentially it's a table. You can go in here and you can actually write on the individual days, not a big deal. What I would also like to show you are the multi-day events that we can add out here, because once we convert this into a online or HTML document, as you've seen in the Chapter 8 lesson, if somebody has a browser that is an older Internet Explorer browser, or if you modify the code on this just slightly with Internet Explorer 11 even, you can see the shape data that you can supply for these multi-day events. And so I want to get into that. So let's first place this on our page. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to move this on down, move the whole calendar down to about within the last half an inch of the page, and try and center it up. and then I'm going to put a title up above it. So I'm going to go with the premise that this is for a casino and a resort that's run by me. So the Lindsay Casino and Resort event calendar is what I want this to be called. So to get that on a page, I just start a text box and click up here in the white space, and this is the Lindsay Casino and Resort, and it's for events, the event calendar. And obviously it's for the month of October 2016. If I want to modify that, which I will, I think that would look better as October 2016 as opposed to October 16. And then I'll make my title span the width of the page, actually be underneath the page break right there. That's what you're seeing when you look at that. Let me zoom in there just slightly. When you see this dashed line up here, that's telling you where the page break is. And so what that means is, as you sent this to the printer, if you were going to print a hard copy of this and you had something up between that dashed line and the edge of the page, it's probably not going to get printed. And so it's just a warning to you to, hey, keep that stuff within that particular, and that's generally about a half an inch. Most printers have the ability to get within a half an inch of a page, and then they're not able to go any further or any closer. All right, so make that a little bit larger, and I'll bump up the text. That's all stuff you know how to do. So nothing real life changing at this point. I'll go ahead and modify this title, and I'll come right back to you. Okay, so let me next I want to now put some events on this page, and I'm going to primarily do this for October. You will do the same exact thing for November, and by the way, you would want to name this page. You can work with the page setup if you right-click down here. You've gone into the page setup a number of times. I'm going to go ahead and name this October, because when I convert this to HTML, this is going to be helpful with the title tags for the HTML that gets output for this particular page here. And likewise, this is going to be November 2016, and I'll go back to October here. I can show you everything with October, because what will happen with November is exactly the same, the same process. So I'll just show it to you once, and then you can extrapolate from that how you would do it for November or December or January or February or some other month, right? So there are two holidays in October that I want to pay attention to, and those are, bear with me one second, Columbus Day and Halloween. And so Columbus Day in 2016 is on October 10th. I don't know if it's like that every year, I've forgotten, but October the 10th here is going to be Columbus Day. So to indicate that, I'm going to insert a graphic. I have some pictures downloaded onto my desktop that are appropriate for this. I'm going to go with the Christopher Columbus ship right there. It's going to be too big, of course. I have to zoom out, make that smaller. But what you're trying to do here, I'm just going to hold down Shift, go to this center sizing handle, and proportionally pull this thing down so it's small. Put that on a 10th, maybe make it a little bit bigger, and put some text on this so people know that's Columbus Day. And I'll do the same thing for Halloween. I have a pumpkin for that one. And I'll come down here too. Now the 31st, I wanted to do this. I specifically chose October 31st because it's a half day. And it lets us get into searching for some shapes here, because our pumpkin's not going to fit very well into that little half of a day. So I'm going to put the pumpkin and stuff over here and then arrow it over into this one, just so you can see how to get that stuff. All right, I'm going to go to Insert again. I want a picture. This time I want my pumpkin, which is out here, and put my pumpkin on the page. Again, it's too big to fit, so you just resize. Why are we going through all this hassle here? Well, I want you guys to get used to using this tool as much as possible, and using as many different kinds of drawings as you can. That's, I think, beneficial for you, because you never know exactly which what kind of drawing you're going to need until you're at work one day and says, hey, we need something for this. And so if you're exposed to a lot of these, then you might be better able to work with them. I'm going to go to my text block tool, make sure that thing is up just a little bit. You guys have worked with that before. And then lastly, I'm going to get my arrow and point all this over to the 31st here. How do you do that? I'm going to go to search. I'm going to look for an arrow, and I'll search. Now, if you're using a home installation, this ought to work perfectly fine. If you're using the WKU installation of Visio, the searching mechanism does not work. I don't know why. It's always been that way. I've asked about it, and whatever is required to change it at the code level on those machines, it's never happened. So at least in the preceding years, maybe with the new image coming out for the fall, maybe they'll get that rectified. But for previous semesters, this has not worked. I'm going to take a circular arrow, bring it out here onto the page, and we'll get rid of that shapes item now. And I just want to take this, go back to the pointer, take that guy, I want to flip him over and get that pointing into the adjacent. There we go. Is this perfect? No, but I think it's pretty good. People kind of know what's going on here. And I'll work with this and I'll come right back. Okay, so I've gotten that maneuvered about where I want it. I'll change its fill color to make it really stand out, and I'll also use the layering, send that backwards behind the pumpkin picture so that it shows up. Now, I've mentioned to you the ability to work with transparent colors. Let me see if I get into that here in Visio real quickly. And no, I'm not going to see that here, but that's fine. I've got, I think that looks good. If I could crop that just a touch to get more what I'm looking for, because what I want a little bit more of the arrow to show. Zoom in here just a touch. Pull that down just slightly. So more of that red's going to show up, and the white ties in and blends into the outline of the rest of the shape. So that's good, perfect. So I now have my holidays on there. I have Halloween and I have Columbus Day. Those are pretty clearly denoted. But now I want to get to those custom, put those shapes on here and then start putting some information that will show up as a shape data in the HTML version. So let me bring my shapes pane back up, go back to stencils, and let's work with a couple of these multi-day events. Let's say at the Lindsay Casino and Resort, there were 2 events that were going to be held during the month, which were conventions or events sponsored by companies, and so I want to recognize those those companies so that on my marketing material, so that they feel like as sponsor they're getting their money's worth. So I'm going to take a multi-day event. I'll throw it out here for, let's say, October 5th, 6th, and 7th. You just drop it somewhere. You get to choose which dates it's there for. If you just want it to be a single day, all you have to do is just go from the 5th to the 5th or the 6th to the 6th. And it will make that one thing just on that one page. Up here where the subject name is, I'm going to call this the Geico Insurance Convention. So let's say everybody that works at the salespeople for that company are going to come to my facility, and it's going to be at the North Hall of my convention, convention hall. So I'm going to hit OK. That shows up there, and you can sort of move that up. And then I'm lastly going to insert a picture of the Geico Gecko to go with that, and I'll use the same process I went through with those. I'm not going to make you watch me do that, but I have that guy out here. There's the Geico Gecko. I'll insert him. It's really big, of course, and I'll have to edit this and then get this put into play. So I'll do that offline. I'll be right back. Okay, the Gecko is in place, and I have one other event I want to put on my calendar, and that's the Hug Somebody Day, sponsored by Hallmark. And this looks like a good place to put the 19th and October the 19th. Or October the 20th, because there's a little bit more space there. So October the 20th is going to be Hug Somebody Day. I know it's a silly holiday, but I want you to see a one-day event. So the 20th to the 20th. By doing that, it forces that thing to live in that one box as opposed to two. People don't know that you can do that unless you try it or somebody tells you about it. So there we go. Somebody day. We'll do that in the North Hall as well, and we'll put a picture of a puppy in there because puppies and Hallmark kind of go together. So I'll get that inserted, and I've got my puppy right there, and who doesn't like dogs? And I'll get this inserted, and I'll meet you back here in just a minute. Okay, our puppy is on the page, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and jump over. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to go over and build November, and again, November is going to be the same way that I built October here. So I want you to see the finished product though, and so I won't make you watch me create November, but I want you to so you've seen this, and you know I'm going to go through the same kind of process in November. It has a few holidays as well as some events that I want to promote, and then when I come back to you, November will be done, and what we'll do is we'll start to create custom properties for the Geico Insurance Convention as well as the Hug Somebody Day from Hallmark. So I'll meet you back here in a moment with the rest of my calendar for November, with November done. Hello and welcome back. The calendar is done. You can see that the month of October is completed and the month of November is as well. I have 3 different holidays and then 2 different convention type of events. I have the Bicycle Cards World Series of Poker going on towards the end of the month. I have a Harley Davidson rally going on towards the beginning of the month for November. For October, you have that stuff that we've already built together. So what I want to do, let's go ahead and save this. And by the way, I saved this as calendar.vsdx, and it's on my desktop. And so I have that saved. Now I want to make HTML out of this. So you know how to make a calendar, and this is a Visio file. This is just like any other Visio drawing that you've made so far. You know, the flow charts and the network diagrams and maps and everything else that you've made. This is exactly the same. It's a Visio file, a VSDX. Now I want to make HTML out of it. I covered how to do this in the Chapter 8 lesson. It's an exporting process, and so I want to cover that with you again. I'm going to go to File and go to Export from this backstage, and that's what this is called. This whole portion of the interface is called the backstage. I'm going to change the file type, and if you want step-by-step instructions on this, look in Chapter 8. It talks about how to do this step-by-step. We're going to go to a web page, creates an HTML file and an HTML folder from our work. I'm going to hit Save As. I'm going to say, where do you want to put this? And I'll just put it on my desktop because that's where my work is currently saved. And so it's going to make that file, that HTML file, in a folder there. I'll hit Save. And there it is. Let me go ahead and close that up so you can see what that looks like on the new stuff. There's the HTML file that was created, and there's the folder that was created. Okay, so calendar.htm and calendarfiles.htm. If I were to double click on that, it's going to open up in my browser because it's an HTML file. It's not a VSDX file. If I wanted to make modifications to this, what I would have to do is open up the VSDX file, make my changes, and then re-export it as an HTML. This is just the secondary version. You don't create the HTML version and its folder until you're completely done and you're completely satisfied. Because of the editing process. Let's say I figured out I misspelled something. I'm going to double click this so it opens up in my browser. And my default browser is Firefox, by the way. And so if I looked at here and said, oh man, I misspelled October. Well, I can't change it in here. This is just the output from Visio. What I have to do to make the change is come back over here to the VSDX file, make that change in Visio, and then do the whole exporting again. Now let me do the export again, but this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to export this with the name Home, H-O-M-E. And I alluded to this in the Chapter 8 lesson as well. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of calendar.htm and calendar files. No, I won't. I'll keep those. I'm just going to move those out of the way, though, because I want you to see, once we get to the FTP, I'm just going to put those over here. When we get to the FTP lesson, I want you to see the difference between having a file named calendar and a file named home. All right. So I'm going to open the calendar.vsdx Visio file one more time and go through the export process one more time. Again, it's export. You change the file type to a web page. Click on Save As, and this time for its name, I'm going to use HOME because I want to make this a file that will automatically open up in a browser. When somebody goes to the web address where this is going to be saved, if it's called home or if it's called index, I-N-D-E-X, then the browser knows to automatically open that file. That's why we call the first page that you go to at a website the home page, because it's literally called home. So I'm going to hit save. It creates that HTML and folder for me, and there it is. And right now it's just saved on my computer, but now it's ready. I can now take this and put this into my web space, and people with a browser can view it. So I'll go ahead and save that and close it, close that, and there's that new file. There's the home.htm file and the folder that was created with it, and all of that came from this calendar.vsdx file. So that's the calendar lesson for you. Let me move these guys over here with it. That is the calendar lesson. I appreciate your time and attention. I hope that this is going to be helpful for you. If you need to make a calendar for print or a calendar for online purposes, you have a great tool for doing it. Thanks for your time.